محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم صدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذوا من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاءتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة وأحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما أملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون، والشمس تجري لمستقر لها، ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار، وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون، وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون، وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون، إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون، وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين، ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون، فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون. قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا، هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون، إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون. إنا أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون، هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون، لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون، سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون، ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون. هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون، اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون. ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون. ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين، لينذر من كان حيا ويهق القول على الكافرين. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون، وظللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون، ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون. واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إن نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
فاتحة. الوداع اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع اربعین کے سوگوارو الوداع آخری مجلس ہے یارو الوداع اربعین کے سوگوارو خاتمہ بالخیر چہلم کا ہوا الوداع اشک بارو الوداع اکبر و اصغر علی کی ضامنی نوجوانوں شیر خوارو نوجوانوں شیر خوارو الوداع کہتے تھے گنجے شہیداں پر حرام فاطمہ زہرا کے پیارو فاطمہ زہرا کے پیارو الوداع کربلا کی خاک کو سونپا تمہیں ہر عرش اعظم کے ستاروں، عرش اعظم کے ستاروں، الوداع۔ خبر پر بیٹوں کی زینب نے کہا، ماں وطن جاتی ہے پیاروں، ماں وطن جاتی ہے پیاروں، الوداع۔ سر کہیں لاشیں، کہیں خبریں، کہیں بے مکانوں بے دیاروں، بے مکانوں بے دیاروں، الوداع۔ خبر سے آواز دیتے ہیں حسین، لو بہن زینب سدھارو، لو بہن زینب سدھارو، الوداع۔ اربعین کے سوگواروں، درود بر محمد و آل محمد۔ فاتحہ۔ قید سے چھٹ کے آئی ہے زینب، صدمے دل پر اٹھائی ہے زینب، خبر شہ کی بنائی ہے زینب، کچھ یتیموں کو لائی ہے زینب، کہتی ہے رو کہ لو خبر بھائی، ختم اب ہو گیا سفر بھائی، اٹھ کے دیکھو تو ایک نظر بھائی، ٹکڑے صدموں سے ہے جگر بھائی، ہو گیا ہے سفید سر بھائی، جھک گئی ہے میری کمر بھائی، وعدہ پورا میں کر کے آئی ہوں، پشت پر تازیان کھائی ہوں، سارے کنبے کو ساتھ لائی تھی، محنتوں سے یہ گھر بسائی تھی، میں نے دولت یہ ماں سے پائی تھی، ہو گئی دفن جو کمائی تھی، اب ہو کیوں کر میری بسر بھائی، ہائے کس منہ سے جاؤں گھر بھائی۔ درود بر محمد و آل محمد۔ بر محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم۔
بن گئی قبر تمام، لکھ دیا ہر ایک پہ نام، ختم ہوا یہ بھی کام، آخری میرا سلام۔ قبر میں سب سونپ کے جاتا ہے یہ بے وطن، شکر ہے معبود کا مل گیا سب کو دفن۔ کرب و بلا تجھ میں ہی دفن ہے کل قافلہ، ماں پھوپھی بہنوں کے ساتھ صرف ہے زین العباد۔ او نو محمد میرے الفراق الوداع، شاہ کے صدقے ہوئے الفراق الوداع۔ اصغر نادان کے زخم گلو الوداع، شاہ کے منہ پر جو تھا سرخ لہو الوداع، میرے شبیہ رسول بارے دیگر الوداع، زخم سینہ الفراق، درد جگر الوداع، نہر پر لڑکے موئے شان قلم الوداع، اے چچا عباس کے مشکو علم الوداع قبر حسین الوداع اہل وطن الوداع سید سجاد کا تھائے سخن الوداع محمد و آل محمد صلوات.
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Right, on behalf of the community, we extend our deepest condolences on this commemoration of the Arbaeen of Imam Hussein and the Shuhada of Karbala. May Allah give us the opportunity to do the ziyarah, inshallah. If we haven't, we get to go, and if we have, inshallah, we all get another chance, inshallah. Like just to make a quick announcement, this Sunday at the cemetery in Pomona, there will be a majlis there to remember all of the loved ones that are buried there. So if you are available, inshallah, the majlis is open to both ladies and gents, and the time will be at 10:30 in the morning, inshallah, this coming Sunday. So inshallah, if you're available, then the 10th of September, inshallah. Also, the wafat of the Prophet, originally on our calendar, we have it down as Saturday the 16th. I believe I'm getting the dates right, the Saturday 16th. Inshallah, we will move that program to Thursday night on the 14th, so we can all meet together, have a dua kumail together, and also commemorate the passing of our Prophet Muhammad, inshallah, that night. So we will send out announcements for that, inshallah, and hope to get everybody to attend that program as well. Without further ado, everybody already is familiar with Sheikh Salim. We're also very fortunate to have his entire family here with us. If you haven't had a chance to meet them, please do get to meet them. Sheikh Salim is a family member of our community. We hope to have him more and more every time. I think somebody was convincing him to move down yesterday. Inshallah, we'll change his mind at some point. But with a loud salawat, we'll invite Sheikh Salim to the minbar. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat. Allah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعن الله الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. Respected elders, brothers, sisters, May Allah reward you for your commemoration and mourning for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Today is the special day of Arbaeen. And on this day, we give our condolences to our living Imam, the Imam of our time, Ajalallahu Farajahu Sharif, on the occasion that we're commemorating. and my condolences to all of you as well. It's a blessing and honor to be present among the believers on such a gathering and occasion. And I want to appreciate the presence of everyone who took that time and effort to come to the program, and especially the efforts of those who help with organizing the program, sponsoring the program, setting up, cleaning up. May Allah reward you all. There are many reasons and excuses we could come up with for not being present during the daytime on a weekday. But it really is an honor to be invited to be present in this gathering. And inshallah, your intentions in being present will allow you to take part in the reward of those who are doing the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam on this day. When it comes to the day of Arbaeen, I think for all of us, we have mixed emotions within us. Obviously, there's the element of sadness and mourning because we know that this was the day where, according to some reports, at least the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam had their first majlis in Karbala. And definitely, there would have been tears that were shed and many painful memories that they experienced. So, out of love for them, then of course we would be saddened by that as well. But part of our emotions also, we can say, I think confidently, that this is a day of pride for the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And the reason why I use that word is because we see that this was the day in which the promise of Sayyidah Zainab alayha salam was and has been fulfilled. Sayyidah Zainab, we know that in one of her speeches, she said that you can try however much you want, but you will never be able to erase our remembrance. And this was the message of Sayyidah Zainab, this was the message of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, that the blood that was spilled in Karbala will not be forgotten despite whatever efforts that Yazid and the Bani Umayyah and the enemies of Islam would take to erase that memory. And we see year by year how true that promise of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam was. Both on that day of Arbaeen, and then since then, we see that the Arbaeen occasion, the Arbaeen pilgrimage was something that was part of the plan. When you have something as incredibly devastating as the grandson of the Messenger of Allah being killed along with his children and companions by those people who consider themselves among the ummah of the Prophet, you need a reaction to that. And that reaction, every action needs a reaction. That reaction came in the form of Arbaeen. And it was part of the plan. You see, in that famous hadith of our 11th Imam alayhi salam, he says that there are 5 signs of the believer. And these 5 signs are important. Each one of them has its own significance. The wearing of the ring on the right hand, the rubbing of the forehead in the earth, the 51 prayers of extra prayer, and one of those being the ziyarah of Arbaeen. That this becomes one of the signs of a believer, that they give importance to this ziyarah. So to see how in our lifetime this promise has come true, it's something which gives a lot of pride for us. It's also an opportunity for reflection. One of the very interesting things we find in our books of hadith is that somebody who goes walking for the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, one of the hadith says that every footstep they take, one of their sins is erased and one good deed is written for them. We have another hadith which says that for somebody who goes for the ziyarah of Arbaeen, for every footstep they take, 70 good deeds are written for them and 70 evil deeds are erased from them. And sometimes we come to these ahadith and we use our analytical and mathematical and engineering and scientific backgrounds to try to understand them. So we say, wait a minute, 1 doesn't equal 70, right? How does that work? And then we go to the experts of hadith, experts in Quran, and they say that, look, you have to break out of your certain mind. Don't apply that mindset is good for its own field. But every field has its own approach that you have to take. When it comes to the spiritual secrets of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, these numbers do add up in their own way. But you have to think beyond numbers. You have to consider yourself. We are not present walking as part of the pilgrimage of Arbaeen. But we are present at this occasion, and we've dedicated this time to see how we can benefit from it. And these type of hadith, they're almost invitations for us. They're saying that, think about it. There can be somebody who has a ziyarah where it's a ziyarah which is equal to 1. But there's somebody else who can have a ziyarah where it's equal to 70. And we know in Arabic, the word 70 is used to describe a great number. The same thing when it comes to our Arbaeen commemoration. It can be something which is low level, or it can be something which is high level. The difference depends on what level of awareness we have. So one of the things that we've gathered here today to do, inshallah, we began with the recitation of this beautiful ziyarah of Arbaeen, which itself is filled with so many deep teachings and meanings about the purpose behind Ashura and the purpose behind Arbaeen. And then we continued with the salah, with these reminders in terms of poetry recitations. And my purpose in sitting with you on this afternoon is to see if we can understand something deeper and further our level of ma'rifah and awareness, so that inshallah our Arbaeen experience can be something deeper, whether it be us being present together with believers here, or inshallah if we have the tawfiq for us to be able to go for the ziyarah of Arbaeen. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The ziyarah of Arbaeen is one of the examples of the very important institution of ziyarah itself. And I don't want to, my lecture is not about ziyarah, but because of the importance of it, I want to mention it. Unfortunately, you find these days some so-called enlightened intellectuals, right? People who have a very shallow understanding of the teachings of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. They make some very, baseless claims. Ziyarah, they bring under question. They say that why is it that you are spending your time to go and visit somebody who has left this world, somebody who has died? Right? Think about the present, think about the future. Why are you stuck in the past? And these types of questions that they bring up. Ziyarah, brothers and sisters, is something which is so important. It's something which didn't come about because of a random thing. Right? Ziyarah is something which was an institution that was properly created and instituted by the Ahlul Bayt themselves. They were the ones who taught us the importance of being in touch with them. We have a responsibility towards our leaders. We have a responsibility to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. We have to be in touch with them. We have to be communicating with them. The salam that we give after our prayers is just, sometimes unfortunately it can become ritualized, right? We just stand up, we say salam, we're like counting off, we're like, okay, when are we done? We're done. Right? But salam is supposed to be an act of the heart where we're doing that connection with the people who are our leaders. The Ahlul Bayt themselves taught us this institution. They said that come and visit our graves. If you can't visit, then do it from afar. But there's importance in spending that time and effort in going and visiting the graves. And it's one of the signs of the completion of your pledge to the Imam. There's responsibilities that we have towards our leaders. One of those responsibilities we have is to at least put in that effort to try and go and visit their graves. So when we have this millions of people who are going and performing this act of ibadah, this act of fulfilling their pledge and their responsibilities to their Imam, this is something which is an occasion of joy for us and happiness when we see this happening. It's also a reminder for us of the importance of this act of ziyarah and how much can come out of it. Sometimes people question, they say that, well, why do you put so much emphasis on the ziyarah of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam? What about the Kaaba? What about the Hajj? What about the Umrah? What about these acts? Aren't they important? And the answer is that they are very important. They're part of our religion. They're among the obligations that we have if the conditions are fulfilled. But we need to broaden our perspective and understand that every act has its own place within Islam. Some of the scholars have likened it. They say that if you imagine different fruits, right? Every fruit has its own taste and its own flavor and its own properties. Just because you might enjoy one fruit doesn't mean that now the rest of the fruits are no longer worth considering. Everything has its own place. We have a beautiful hadith mentioned in Kamil al-Ziyarat in which the Imam ﷺ says that there are 70,000 angels that are appointed to go to Masjidul Haram on a daily basis. And after they visit Masjidul Haram, those same 70,000 angels go, when the sun starts to set, they go and visit the grave of Amirul Mu'min, of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina. And after they visit the grave of Rasulullah, they go and visit the grave of Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And after they visit the grave of Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, they go and visit the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And after they visit the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada, then they go and they ascend to the heavens. And then the angels, that's the angels of the day, and then the angels in the evening, they go through the same process as well. There's a constant rotation of angels in the celestial sphere that we're told about in hadith and in the ayat of the Quran. So you see here that the Kaaba has its importance. The Prophet's Rawda has its own importance. The Qabr of Amir al-Mu'mineen has its importance, and the Qabr of Imam Hussein and the rest of the Imams as well. This is something that we've been taught by the Imams, that give everything its importance, give everything its due. The ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not a small matter. It's something which is extremely important. Now, last night we had a chance to reflect on this very important parallel that some of our great scholars have made when it comes to looking at the Arbaeen walk and the Arbaeen ziyarah and the concept of preparing for the coming of our Imam. It's a very hope-giving and beautiful discussion. Last night we talked about this one parallel, which is the presence of mutual compassion and mercy towards one another, and how that's something that can be seen, very palpable, very up in front when you go for the ziyarah of Arbaeen, and how that's something that needs to be present among believers in their families, in their communities, in order for the dhuhur of our Imam to take place. Today I wanted to spend a brief amount of time, I don't want to belabor this, but I want to spend a few minutes talking about some of the other parallels that we see in the Arbaeen walk and those qualities that we need to have in order to prepare for the coming of the Imam. Last night I mentioned that the Arbaeen walk itself is a miracle. It's a modern day miracle. I gave you the example of Daesh and what they had done in Iraq. I want to mention here today that if you look at the events that took place in Syria around, I believe it was 2016, we see that similarly there was a divine miracle that took place. Syria was supposed to be overridden by Daesh. The shrine of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam was hours away from Daesh destroying it. There was already 3 attacks in that 1 year against the shrine, including a suicide bomb. What is it that led to the shrine of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam being saved and rescued from Daesh? What was it that led to the defeat of Daesh in Syria, at least for now? Right? It is the presence of the grave of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam in the very city of oppression. Right? Who would have imagined this? That Sayyidah Zainab, who had experienced what kind of torment and torture and memories in Sham, that she would eventually be buried in that same city, and in her burial place there would be a shrine that was constructed and maintained and preserved over the centuries. Who would have thought that? But we see that when you look back now, we see that this was part of the plan as well. Allah's desire was for this to be there and for this to be a remembrance for the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt. And when time came, they would be inspired by her presence there to gather together and to rally and to fight off the terrorists. Right? These are events which happen in our lifetime. Right? Similarly, we see this walk that's taking place, millions of people, right, from 70 plus countries, with 20 plus countries taking an active part in organizing it. Who could have thought even 20 years ago that such a thing would take place? One of the qualities of this Arbaeen walk, brothers and sisters, is the fact that when you go in a caravan. Now, there are people who do things in a different way, right? I remember when we had gone a few years ago, there's some people who were they were very fit, right? And they did things in their own way, right? There was one brother, I think he was on his bike, right? MashaAllah, he was biking the Arbaeen thing. He had a whole kind of sponsorship going on as well too, where if he does these many miles, then he'll be sponsored. He's a very well-intentioned brother, may Allah reward him. Right? There was those people, the super fit, athletic people who were like, what's up with this, right? Like, you guys are going too slow here, right? They want to do the speed walk. So they would go and they would, take the leftmost lane, and they were just like cruising through, right? And at the end, be like, how long did it take you? Oh, it was a day and a half or something. Well, it took us like almost 3 days, like a day and a half. I did the whole thing, right? But for the most part, when people go for the ziyarah of Arbaeen, they go in a caravan. And it's very interesting. Those of you who haven't been part of this, the way that the caravans run is that they'll have 2 flags. One of the flags is in front, and one of the flags is in the back. If you're part of that caravan, it doesn't matter how fast you walk, right? How eager you are to get to the destination, or how eager you are to get to the place where you're going to get your food because you're hungry, right? It doesn't matter whether you're young, whether you're old. You are not going to go beyond that flag. Your responsibility is to stay behind that flag, wherever you're at. Similarly, if you are the flag bearer and you are the one who's taking up the rear, your job is to make sure that you're taking care of those in your caravan, those who have fallen behind. And you're not letting them, kind of just go beyond that, because if they get lost, then, bad things will happen. Not just for them, but for the entire caravan. The whole caravan is going to be delayed because of this. And it's a very interesting experience to be there, because sometimes you feel like breaking off, right? You feel like doing your own thing, but then you're reminded that, not only are you eventually going to suffer, but your whole caravan is going to suffer as well. So you have to do things keeping in mind everyone who's part of your caravan, everyone who's part of your group. That is something which is not a random feature, right? This whole caravan approach is something which was taken from the very roots of the Arbaeen procession. Where did it come from? Right? It came from the caravan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, right? Which was also a caravan, which also had young, which also had old, which also had strong, it had the weak. It had one of the members of the caravan, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they say that he was so elderly that his skin had fallen down on his face and prevented him from doing battle, so he had to actually tie his skin back, right, in order for him to be able to fight. We had some of the companions of the Prophet who had joined Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And then we had children. Right? This is very important that everyone was moving together. And there was effort that was taken to make sure that everyone stayed together. This is extremely important because sometimes when it comes to our practice of Islam, our identity as Muslims, we forget about this importance of being part of a community. Right? Being part of a community means that even if sometimes we might think that we can do things more efficiently alone, right? We still take that effort to make sure that we do it together. It's pretty easy these days to go online and find a majlis, right? There's how many websites that cater to you? Pretty soon you can, with AI, they'll probably find exactly that right majlis for you given your preferences, right? If they don't have that app yet, right? Whatever you want, if you're somebody who wants it like the 20-minute version, you want the 30-minute version, or you're more a 60-minute version, right? It'll find it for you. What kind of speaker you want, fiery, calm, academic, this, that, right? They'll match you up. That's convenient. It's easy, right? But is this the spirit of Islam? Right? The spirit of Islam can be seen in the Arbaeen procession where you're working with a group of people and you're moving towards a target. These are very important concepts, the idea of moving with others towards a target. Now I want to mention here this point, which is that sometimes we get very concerned about the idea of being too close to other people, right? And part of the reason for that is because we're concerned, let's say we're people of faith, right? We're concerned about the effect of being with those who have less faith on us, right? We want to protect ourselves, we want to protect our children, right? And this is something which is a very legitimate and serious issue that we're facing these days, right? What with what's happening in, school curriculum, right? What's happening in social trends. These are things that anybody who has children or grandchildren, right? They're very concerned about this, that what are they doing to my kids? What are they indoctrinating them with? And when we go to the ayat and the riwayat, we actually have very rich guidance on this topic. It's a topic which, I don't want to go into too many details, but let me just briefly mention something here. Sheikh Abbas Qummi, the author of the compiler of Mafatihul Jinan, which all of you are familiar with, in one of his works, Muntahal Amal, he brings up this discussion. He says that what is the responsibility of a believer when they are present in a society which is filled with opportunities for misguidance and sinfulness? And then he begins to quote hadith. He says, let's just take it from the approach of hadith. He says that we have a hadith which actually tell us that as much as possible, stay in your homes. Right? We have hadith from Imam Sadiq Alayhi says that to the extent possible, stay in your home. And if you come out of your home, then make sure that you follow very strictly some protocol. Right? Make sure to watch what you see. Be careful about what you see. Be careful what you say. Don't do ghiba. Don't do this haram. Do this. Very particular. Right? We have ahadith about this. We have ahadith which tell us that there'll come a time when for believers, it will be so difficult for them to earn a halal income that their approach to being in society will be like somebody who's hopping from one peak to another peak, or one hole to another hole. Right? They'll be very, very careful about where they can go and what they can do. Right? Sometimes you can see them, sometimes you can't. We have hadith which mentions this. But on the other hand, we have ahadith which tell us that you're actually supposed to be part of the community. You're supposed to be with other believers. You're supposed to be interacting with even those who are not believers. Right? For example, one of the companions comes to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He says that there is somebody. He says there's somebody who proclaims that they are a Shia and they accept your wilayah, but we never see them. Right? They just keep to themselves. Right? We never see them. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam's response to that is that what kind of understanding, he asks it in the form of a question, what kind of understanding does this person have of the religion that they are being isolationist, that they're being individualistic? So Sheikh Abbas Qummi, he has a very beautiful analysis where he says that at the end of the day, right, you can be alone and you can be a loner, and in the name of protecting yourself, you can actually be engaged in acts of sinfulness. On the other hand, you can be present among others, and that itself can be a source of protecting your faith. Right? What matters though is that you should take care. Right? on one hand, we see the spirit of being together, not being alone, not doing things solo. But on the other hand, you have to take care of whom you spend time with, of what you do in those gatherings. Right? It's very important. We have to acknowledge this, that our presence among others, we're not neutral in this respect. Things rub off on us. Right? We get affected by those around us. We get affected by conversations, by ideas, by lifestyle choices, by whatever, customs. Right? These things, we can't just put our heads in the sand and say that we can just retain our identity and be exactly the way we want, and we can interact with anyone and everyone and in any situation. Right? That's not true. We know ourselves. We have to take that care. We have to be watchful over ourselves. But at the same time, Islam is a religion which calls us to be with others. Now, if we look at the Arbaeen walk, one of the most incredible features about it is that we see a multitude of cultures that are represented. Right? When you go there, doesn't matter, right? Who you are, what country you come from, what language you speak, you are going to be with others. You're forced to be with others. You're forced to interact with others, lovers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Now, where does this come from? Was it just random? Right? That it just happened to be this way? Again, let's go back to the origins. In the caravan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we have people who come from different backgrounds. In the caravan of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, we have people who come from different backgrounds. This is something which the Ahlul Bayt intended. Right? When you go now for the Arbaeen, you see that many cultures are represented. But the way that they represent themselves is one in which they use their culture as a means of serving others. They don't erase their culture. You don't find that, for example, the Lebanese don't pretend to be Lebanese, or the Pakistanis don't pretend to be Pakistanis, or the Khojas don't pretend to be Khojas. No, they know where they come from. They have a certain identity, but they use that as a way of strengthening that common identity that they have. So you find, for example, let's say a Lebanese mokib where they take pride in being at the service of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And you see, for example, an Indian mokib where they say that our doors are welcome to anybody who is coming by. Right? This is the services that we offer. Anybody, whoever you are, you come in and you benefit from our services. This is extremely important, right? Because again, we're talking about something which we hope is, a microcosm for eventually this global movement. That global movement of Imam of our time, we know that the slogan of that movement is Ya li tharat al-Hussein, right? Which means that, oh, where are those who are going to avenge the blood of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? How can you have a global movement? Imam Mahdi's movement is global. How can that global movement have a slogan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam if the whole world doesn't know about it? And the way that they're going to know about it is through the Arbaeen procession. Right? So when we see that you have these different ethnicities coming together and they are able to use their ethnic background as a way of supporting that common identity is something very important for us. We can take lessons from that when it comes to our own approach, even back home here. Right? We have to accept this idea that Islam is global. Shia Islam is global. It is not something which is ethnically divided. I'm not saying that we erase all ethnicity from it. We actually use that ethnicity as a way of contributing towards that greater identity, which is lovers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. That same Arbaeen approach, we can take lessons from that when it comes to the way we organize our own communities and organize our own events. One of the things our great scholars tell us is that, God forbid, that even in the Arbaeen walk, that things start to change and they go off in a different direction. God forbid that you have this approach where different cultures and different countries will start to serve their own people at the exclusion of others. That's not something you have right now. God forbid that it should happen that way. And these are important lessons for us. Please say salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The last point that I'll make tonight, alhamdulillah, this evening, this afternoon, alhamdulillah, we've had the opportunity to discuss the importance of ziyarah. We talked about the concept of moving in a caravan, of not being individualistic. Right? We talked about about ethnicity. The last thing I want to mention here is that in the Arbaeen walk, one of the features of it is that it is not an easy endeavor. Everyone who goes through it, right, they do go through some level of struggle. We don't have like an elite and express version, right, where if you pay more money, then you get like VIP treatment. Everyone goes through this thing. Everyone goes through that. There's times where it's not easy. This too is something which we have to ask, well, what is the source of that? The source of it goes back to the origins of the walk. Right? Part of the whole process of ziyarah is that it's supposed to have some difficulty towards it. Sometimes people go for ziyarah outside of Arbaeen, and they can have a VIP ziyarah, right? They can have the 5-star ziyarah where it's very much is a walk in the park. But this itself is against the spirit of the ahadith that we have. We have ahadith which say that somebody who goes for ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they should appear dusty and hungry. Now, of course, everything in moderation, right? Because somebody can be dusty to the point where they're bothering other people. They can be hungry to the point where they have nothing left when it comes to even being able to perform that ziyarah with any meaning, right? Balance is important here. But the spirit of ziyarah and that spirit of struggle that's meant to come along with the ziyarah can be seen in the ziyarah of Arbaeen, where those who go, they're forced to face some type of struggle. Again, our scholars, they warn us, they say that be careful not to lose this thing right here. That struggle is something which is very important for our identity as followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. I'll just quote one hadith here. This is a whole topic of its own, that are believers supposed to enjoy an easy life, or are they supposed to struggle? Right? The answer can be found in, for example, this one hadith which says that for a believer, there is no believer except that they will have a neighbor who troubles them. And if that believer were to escape to a high place somewhere and isolate themselves so they don't have a neighbor who's going to disturb them, the hadith is found you can find it Al-Kafi. The hadith says that Allah will send a shaitan to bother them even in that high place there. A believer is not supposed to just have easy times, right? All of us, we want that. We want easy life. We want to be comfortable, right? But part of our iman and having our iman remain intact, number one. And number two, our iman to grow is that we face trials and struggles. And the Arbaeen walk is something which teaches that, reminds us of this. That no matter who you are, no matter your wealth status, no matter your job, no matter your title, no matter whatever stage you are in life, you also have to face difficulty as well until you leave this world. Then after you leave this world, then that's a time that you can relax. But you have to be on the go in this world. These are some of the very important philosophies of the walk of the Arbaeen. And I feel like I just scratched the surface. There's many other deeper points that we could get to. But inshallah, with this, we hope that this was a reminder for us. And again, the point wasn't just to talk about the walk because of the walk. The idea was to talk about the walk in terms of how we can benefit when it comes to ourselves, our families, and our communities. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala. Brothers and sisters, let's take our hearts to Karbala, and we can imagine for a moment that somehow we're standing there, Bain al-Haramain, and we are joined with millions of people, millions of mourners dressed in black. And all of them are chanting, Labbaika ya Hussein, Labbaika ya Hussein, Labbaika ya Hussein. Ya Allah, you know our intention. We weren't able to go for the ziyarah for this year, but we said that we would join these mu'mineen in this home of Allah with the hope that on the Day of Judgment, we can be counted among those who did something. We weren't just passive, we were active. We tried to show our love and our loyalty and our desire for being part of that mission of saying, Labbaika ya Hussein. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you, O noble soul, O master of martyrs, O son of Ali and Fatima, O grandson of Rasulullah, O the one who was slain by the banks of the Euphrates River while his mouth was thirsty. Peace and blessings be upon you, O Imam Hussein, and upon your noble companions who are buried with you in Karbala. We say to you on this day, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum, فنفوز معكم فوزا عظيما. If only we could have been with you and attain that great victory that you attained. What a beautiful scene that's described in our books of hadith of the first Zahir of Imam Hussein. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, that great companion of the Prophet, he leaves Medina towards Karbala knowing that he's risking his own life. Maybe the Umayyads will kill him along the way. Maybe they will kill him upon his return. But Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari has no concern about his own life. He knows his responsibility. He fulfills his responsibility by going for the ziyarah of Imam Hussein. When he gets to the grave of Imam Hussein, he cries out, "O Hussein, indeed we participated with you. We fought along you, and we attained that reward that you attained." Atiyah, his companion, says, "O Jabir, what are you saying? These are the people who sacrificed everything to be with Imam Hussein. They gave their own lives fighting on the day of Ashura. They were struck by the enemy's swords. Their heads were separated from their bodies. But here we are alive, O Jabir. Why are you saying that we joined with them and we attained their reward?" Jabir tells him, "O Atiyah, I heard with my own ears my beloved Rasulullah saying that whoever loves a people, they will be resurrected with them. And whoever loves the good deeds of a people, they will share in the reward that those people will receive on account of their good deeds. On this day we say to Allah, we were not present there to perform the ziyarah, but we love the act of ziyarah. We love the act of saying salam to Imam Hussein. O Allah, do not deprive us of the reward of the zuwar of Imam Hussein." According to some reports, this was the day where the first majlis of Zainab alayha salam took place. She gathers the women folk in Karbala. She begins to tell the story of what transpired to the Ahlul Bayt on that day. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam too is telling the story of what happened in Karbala. This is a journey of telling the truth, of spreading the truth about what happened to the Ahlul Bayt. Some of the reports say that on the 40th, this was the day that the caravan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam now returns back to the city of Medina. Let us take a few moments to remember the masa'ib of what happened when the caravan returns back to Medina. On that day, when the caravan returns, what kind of caravan was it? We know when that caravan left Medina, there was Hadrat Abbas amongst them. There was Ali Akbar amongst them. There was Qasim amongst them. But now, what kind of caravan has returned? Where is Abbas? Where is Ali Akbar? Where is Qasim? Imam Sajjad alayhi salam tells Bashir, O Bashir, tell the people of the city that we have returned. Bashir al-Nu'mani, he says to the people, Ya ahla Yathriba, la muqama lakum biha. قتل الحسين فأدمعي مدرارا الجسم منه بكربلاء مدرج والرأس منه على القناة يدار. What is he telling the people? How is he announcing the arrival of this caravan? He's saying, O people of Medina, this is not a place for you to stay. Do not be content here. Why? Hussein has been killed, so let your eyes pour forth with tears. The body of Hussein is in Karbala, and his head is atop the spear, and it is circulating. This is how Bashir was received by the people. The people of Medina begin to leave the city to go to the caravan. What has happened? What has happened to Hussein? What has happened to the brother of Hussein? What has happened to the son of Hussein? They go and they greet Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, who tells them, O people, gather around. Let me tell you the story of what took place. He has a handkerchief by which he is wiping the tears from his eyes. What does he tell them? O people of Medina, you should know that such an event happened, that the seas with all of their waves, and the skies with all of its pillars, the earth with all of its expanses, the trees with all their branches, and the creatures in the seas, the close angels and the people of the skies, all of them wept, and all of them are weeping over what happened on account of the tragedy of my father Hussein. Which eye amongst you is going to hold back its tears? Whose heart is not grieved by its killing? Who can hear about this calamity without their ears becoming deaf over the tragedy? O people, we the Ahlul Bayt have become those who have no home. We have been shunned by their own people as if we're prisoners of war. Who has ever heard of such a thing happening? What does Zainab alayhi salam say? Zainab goes to the gates of Medina and she says, O my grandfather, O Rasulullah, I have something to tell you. O my grandfather, they have done these things to us. O my grandfather, I wish to mourn over what they did to my brother Hussein. And what does the daughter of Imam Hussein say? O my grandfather, I complain to you over what we have been through. Oh my grandfather, I've never seen somebody as hard-hearted as Yazid. I've never seen somebody more cruel or rough. What did he do? Ya Rasulullah, oh my grandfather, he kept on hitting my father's lips. He kept on hitting them with that iron bar. And he kept on repeating, how did you find the battle, O Hussein? How did you find the battle? This was the situation of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Let us remember for a moment what happened when Zainab alayhi salam was standing in Karbala and they had gathered over the body, she cries out, "Is there no Muslim amongst you?" But the enemies turn away, tears are in their eyes. He turns to Umar ibn Sa'd, "Oh Ibn Sa'd, will you just stand there while my brother Hussein is being killed?" But Umar ibn Sa'd has no answer for her. Zainab cries out, "Wa Muhammada wa Aliya hada Hussein bil Ara." "Oh Muhammad, oh Ali, this is Hussein. He's in the desert sand. He has no helper." The same Zainab is now crying out, "Ya Rasulullah, let me tell you the story of what they did to my brother Hussein." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. We ask Allah Ta'ala to accept this majlis from us. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make us among the mourners, counted among the mourners of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us the shafa' of Rasulullah and Sayyidah Fatimah al-Zahra on the Day of Judgment. We ask Allah Ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time with the barakah wa salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
رنج سے دل ہے دونی ہو گیا خادم یتیم آپ کے فرزند کا لے کے علم آیا ہوں ہو گئے ہم پر ستم لٹ گئے جنگل میں ہم مر گئے شاہ خدا لے کے علم آیا ہوں لٹ گیا شہر رسول چھٹ گئی قبر بطول بس گئی اب کربلا لے کے علم آیا ہوں حامل مشک و علم بازوئے شاہ زمن نہر پہ مارا گیا لے کے علم آیا ہوں قاسم و اکبر نہیں بابا بھی سر پر نہیں کوئی نہ پرسا لے کے علم آیا ہوں. کہتے تھے زین العبا لے کے علم آیا ہوں. اٹھو رسول خدا لے کے علم آیا ہوں. قبر حسین الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. قبر اہل وطن الوداع. سیاد سجاد کا تائے سوہن الوداع. قبر حسین اہل وطن الوداع. سیاد سجاد کا ہوئی رہائی مجھے تربت بننے لگی. ٹوٹی ہوئی ہڈیاں جسم میں ملنے لگی. الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. قبر حسین الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. سیاد سجاد کا قبر میں سب سونپ کے جاتا ہے یہ بے وطن. شکر ہے معبود کا مل گیا سب کو دفن. الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. قبر حسین الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. بن گئی قبریں تمام لکھ دیا ہر ایک پہ نام. ختم ہوا یہ بھی کام آخری میرا سلام. الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. قبر حسین الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. سیاد سجاد کا تائے کرب و بالا تجھ میں ہی دفن ہے کل قافلہ. ماں پھوپھی بہنوں کے ساتھ صرف ہے زین العبا. الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. اہل حسین الوداع اہل وطن الوداع. سیاد سجاد کا تائے سوہن الوداع.
قبر حسین الوداع. سید سجاد کا الوداع اے شہید و مسافر. الوداع اے شہید و مسافر. لاش سرور پہ کہتی تھی زینب. لاش سرور پہ الوداع اے شہید مسافر. بعد مرنے کے بھائی تمہارے بازو باندھے رسن سے ہمارے. الوداع اے شہید و مسافر. الوداع اے شہید و مسافر. لاش سرور پہ کہتی تھی زینب. لاش سرور پہ مسافر. بازو باندھے رسن سے ہمارے تازیان بھی آدان مارے. الوداع اے شہید و مسافر. الوداع شہید و مسافر لاش سرور پہ کہتی تھی زینب لاش سرور پہ شہید و مسافر ہے تم کو نبی کا نواسا ہائے آجان مطلق نہ جانا الوداع شہید و مسافر الوداع شہید و مسافر لاش سرور پہ کہتی تھی زینب الوداع شہید و مسافر آئیں گے ملنے چھوٹے بڑے سب کیا کہیں ان سے بتلاؤ زینب الوداع شہید و مسافر الوداع شہید و مسافر لاش سرور پہ شہید و مسافر بازو باندھے رسن سے ہمارے تازیان بیادان مارے الوداع شہید و مسافر الوداع شہید و مسافر لاش سرور پہ کہتی تھی زینب لاش سرور پہ تھی زینب یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین اے شام کے لوگوں میں بنت علی ہوں اے شام کے لوگوں میں بنت علی ہوں اے شام کے لوگوں میں ہوں میں وارث تطہیر ہوں میں وارث تطہیر ہوں ناموں سے نبی ہوں اے شام کے لوگوں میں بنت علی ہوں اے شام میں بنت علی ہوں بازار اس دربار میں لے آئے ہو مجھ کو چاہو تو جلا سکتی ہوں خطبوں سے میں تم کو صابر کی بہن ہوں جو میں خاموش کری ہوں اے شام کے لوگوں میں بنت علی ہوں اے شام کے لوگوں میں بنت علی ہوں افسوس کنیزی میں اسے مانگ رہے ہو تم جس کے غلاموں کی غلامی نے رہے ہو یہ ظلم نہ ہوگا کبھی میں زندہ بھی ہوں اے شام کے لوگوں میں بنت علی ہوں اے شام کے لوگوں میں بنت علی ہوں تم اپنے پیمبر کو اگر دیکھنا چاہو نیزے پہ جو یہ سر ہے اسے غور سے دیکھو ہم شکل پیمبر ہے یہ میں اس کی پھوپھی ہوں اے شام کے لوگوں اے شام کے لوگوں زہرا کو بھی دربار میں تم نے تھا بلایا، دربار میں بھی ہوں مگر فرق ہے اتنا، پردے میں تیور میں بے پردہ کری ہوں، اے شام کے لوگوں تے علی ہوں، اے شام کے لوگوں تے علی ہوں، میں وارث تطہیر ہوں، میں وارث تطہیر ہوں، ناموں سے نبی ہوں، اے شام کے لوگوں بنت علی ہوں، اے شام کے لوگوں میں بنت علی ہوں، یا حسین
یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، کربلا اے کربلا یہ تو بتا، کربلا اے کربلا یہ تو بتا، کربلا اے کربلا یہ تو بتا، ظلم سرحد میں تیری کیوں کر ہوا، کربلا اے کربلا یہ تو بتا، ایک مسافر آیا تھا تیرے یہاں جس کا نانا تھا رسول دو جہاں، نور عین فاطمہ حیدر کی جاں، کیا ہوا وہ ساربان کارواں، کربلا اے کربلا یہ تو بتا، کربلا اے کربلا دوش احمد پر چڑھا تھا وہ حسین، گود زہرا میں پلا تھا وہ حسین، دل بر مشکل کشا تھا وہ حسین، سب خنجر سے ہوا تھا وہ حسین، کربلا اے کربلا کربلا اے حضرت عباس دریا پر گئے، ہائے وہ بازو کٹا کر سو گئے، لاش پر جب سیبتائے پیغم گئے، بول تنہا تم لبے کوثر گئے، کربلا اے کربلا یہ تو بتا، کربلا آخری رخصت کو جب آئے حسین، ہو گیا خیمے میں برپا شور و شین، پیٹ کر سر کرتی تھی زینب یہ بین، آپ کے جانے سے آئے گا نہ چین، کربلا یہ تو بتا، کربلا اے کربلا یہ تو بتا، ظلم سرحد میں تیری کیوں کر ہوا، کربلا اے کربلا یہ تو بتا، ظلم سرحد میں تیری کیوں کر ہوا، کربلا یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، الوداع يا سيدي الوداع يا سيدي الوداع يا حسين الوداع يا سيدي الوداع يا عباس الوداع يا سيدي الوداع يا مظلوم الوداع يا أكبر الوداع يا سيدي الوداع يا أصغر الوداع يا مظلوم الوداع يا سيدي الوداع يا سيدي الوداع يا سيدي يا حسين 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 بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي ابن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولى ابن مولى. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلطان والحسن مولى علي بن موسى الرضا وشفيعنا وشفيع والدي في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله فرجك وسهل الله تعالى محرجك وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.